We have with us today an experienced educator and author. Stay tuned for more information.
TCT presents Public Report, a look at the issues and events of importance to our viewing area. Now, here is your host.
Welcome to Public Report. I'm Sheila Pulliam. We have with us today Laura Kirby Stryker, and she is an experienced educator and author, children's author that is, here in Guilford County. Laura, welcome to Public Report.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to
be
here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Now, Laura, I understand with your many years of experience in education, this led to a special project. Can you tell us about that project?
Yes, a pastor and his wife and myself felt a real call from the Lord to do something about all the children who were dropping out of high school. So we began an alternative high school, Christian high school that was known as His Village Academy. We were in operation for an 8-year period and had amazing results.
Now, this is a Christian-only high school, so how did you get your students for your high school?
Well, that's one of the miracles we had. We did not advertise.
Okay.
The children simply came, I guess, through word of mouth. I really can't tell you how they came. We just prayed. And God brought students who were most of them in great need. Okay.
Now, did this start, where did you start this in your home, or did you already have an established building?
No, we had, well, the pastor had a small church and a very large after-school program. So a few of the students came in through word of mouth, through some of those parents, I suppose, but I really believe that it was just God ordained for some of them to come.
Okay, so God spoke to you and led you to start the school.
Yes, it was actually just an adventure by faith. Okay. We didn't exactly know where it was going to go. I had been homeschooling and tutoring in my home and worked in some private schools prior to this for many years. But we just began to see the need. The pastor was most concerned about the dropout rate, and mine was the children with the learning disabilities. I just saw how much extra help they needed, and we knew the change that God had done in our lives, and we felt like perhaps God was going to do something in theirs, and He did.
Well, how did you recruit your students?
Like I said, just word of mouth, really.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to have, by the city's rules, we weren't allowed to have more than 15 at a time per semester. So that made it pretty easy to fill up real quick.
Now, this school was located at the church?
Yes.
Okay. So the children came in, and what was the grades?
We did 9th through 12th.
9th through 12th, accredited?
Yes.
With all of the courses and everything for the requirements?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now, were there any specialized courses, though? Being that you were dealing with a lot of students with disabilities.
Right, right. Well, one of the things we had to do was do our own curriculum. In addition to using the standard Christian materials that are recommended for private schools and by the state, we had to actually write some of our curriculum. We found that one of the most important aspects was to take the children back in remedial work and find out where they had gotten lost. We would have these big 16-year-old boys who were on a 3rd grade reading level, for example. But we found that as we began to pray over them and to help build their confidence, that they were able to catch up pretty quickly. It was really more of a confidence thing and the encouragement and hope that Christ brings us.
All right, so what type of students did you work with?
Oh gosh, we had a little bit of everything. First of all, let me make this clear for all who are listening. We did have some just regular Christian high schoolers who wanted to do, something different. Had quite a number of them with much support from their parents, so we were blessed to have that. We also had volunteers from High Point University, some professors that came and helped us on board, as well as a college intern. So we had a good support team. Lots of prayer going around the clock for the kids. But the students some were suicidal. Some had come from detention centers and foster programs. Majority were very low self-esteem. That was a big issue. Of course, we dealt with anger, depression, substance abuse. We had that. We had children who were just totally devastated over a death in the family or depression, something like that. So almost all were behind, though. At some point in place in time, we would figure that out, where God would show us what they needed specifically, individually. And it was amazing how quickly, once they came to the Lord, how quickly they came around and got their confidence up and began to try.
Very good. Well, what were some of the challenges, though?
Oh, goodness. Transportation.
Okay.
Anybody in the school systems, communities in schools, or any of those other places will tell you that's the biggest problem for the high schoolers. How, because we don't have the funding to do buses and things, how do you get them to school? We actually drove many of the students ourselves as teachers and staff. We picked the kids up ourselves and became like their family away from home.
So now transportation was a challenge.
Well, we actually had some students who were homeless, so transportation was an absolute for them. That would be one of the biggest problems that I think we faced.
But now, okay, so as a homeless student, how did you work with that child or work with those children?
Well, let me
Because
tell you,
that's
this
different.
this particular child's parents were in prison, and the girl was just pretty much, she was 16, she was running from the law. She didn't want to be in foster care. And at this point, once they turned 16, they really just don't have the manpower, as they've shared with us, to get them all. So this girl the Lord led her to a nice older woman who needed someone to help her, didn't have any family of her own much, who would care for her physically. So this two young ladies who were both kind of homeless moved in with this older lady and took care of her. And the beautiful part of this whole story is that not only did the girls come to the Lord and graduate and are still serving the Lord today, doing well in their lives, but they led this older lady ended up coming to the church some and accepted Christ. And we had the privilege and honor of handling her, funeral and everything. So at times there we would see this reach out into the families sometimes too.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, but smart girls, lovely girls. We miss them.
Fantastic.
That was our first real experience, but it was a lot of work. We had to do all that driving. And if I might share this, I'm not sure I'm going to have time, but one of the fun miracles to tell was how the kids and I, there was so little funding for this, almost virtually none, just whatever we could get, parents that could pay or something. We tried to keep it really affordable.
Yes.
And for those kids who had no parents, we didn't charge anything. We just, we took them as charity cases. But with the kids and I were praying for me to have the gas money to get the girls all the way out. It was a good distance, almost in Greensboro, from High Point almost into Greensboro to get them home. And it was amazing to watch their faith grow. And I kept praying in the back of my mind, Lord, how are we going to do this? I need at least $10 to get the girls home.
Yes.
And a lady stopped by the school and said, I just can't get this off my mind. Somebody in here needs me to give this money. And she handed us a $10 bill.
Oh,
so she didn't know us from anywhere. So we had a lot of those miracles that happen, like in the book of Acts.
Yes.
On pretty much a weekly basis, we would see something like that.
Yes.
So anyway, but we have a lot of success stories like that.
Okay. Now, being that you had this great experience with the Christian high school and you were dealing with the children with disabilities, did that lead you to any type of special project?
Yes.
Okay.
During the year, towards the end of the years that I was there, I began to feel a leading to start a book series. I'd actually had some people pray that with me before.
Okay.
Taking fictional characters and using some of our real life experiences, particularly in the miracles, that really show God's love and concern for us. And I ended up writing a book series. I got about 12 books.
Okay.
With the first is on the market. It came out last February.
All right.
And then we're in the production of number 2. So our vision of this is to help children ages about 6 to 12, although my teenagers love these too, just have something positive to read, to encourage them. There's not a whole lot of series out there that are Christian based,
Yes.
but these books are done in such a way that even non-believers can read them and be encouraged. So, but again, there's some truth in every one of these stories.
Okay, fantastic. Now, you have a copy of the book with you.
Yes.
Okay, and it says The Incredibly Tall Mrs. Tippet.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to actually show this to our viewers.
Miss Tippet is the main character.
Okay, Miss Tippet is the main character. Okay, what inspired you to write this book?
It was a vision.
Okay.
20 years before I was ever working with these kids of this nature, God, I was worrying myself about something, and the Lord showed me a vision of this woman growing taller and taller and taller, like on a movie screen. You know, you hear about musicians hearing a song in their head. I saw the whole story and wrote it down and stuck it in a drawer. And it was during my last few years at the school that God began to show me that like Miss Tippet, I had these experiences with the children, and that I didn't need to worry, and that, you know, I had learned to turn to God in the Bible for my answers to prayer, and that Miss Tippet's going to learn to do this in the stories too. And so that's how I got the inspiration, and one by one I just spent about a year or so working on the books. And then God miraculously led us to the right publisher, of which the miracle there is that I did not have to pay an initial fee. God's just opened the door for it, and so it's just what it is. But the impact that the books have on children is and parents has been incredible to hear it, to see their response to it. So anyway.
Now, Mrs. Tippet is the first book in your series.
They're all about Miss Tippet and these same characters.
All right.
And it's about it's called the Mrs. Tippet's Adventure series.
Okay.
So, but there will be 12 books in it.
Now, I'm curious. The analogy here is because she's tall.
Actually, no, she's short. She's very short.
But is that...
Like Pinocchio's nose from lying growing, she was growing taller. Actually, the scripture that the Lord was giving me that day was, which of you can add a cubic inch to your height by worrying, and he was showing me not to worry. And I came home and looked at it and said, well, that's a scripture in the Bible. And it was funny. It made me laugh, and I thought, well, I certainly am not going to get any taller worrying. I guess God wants me to give this to him. And it was at that point that he was introducing me, getting me into the working with the children, and all this was beginning to happen in my life. So he was letting me know he had a plan and that we would be okay financially.
Now, are your students aware that you have taken on this challenge of
Some of
becoming
them
an author?
are. When we were reading the stories, as I was writing them, I was reading them to the kids, and they would laugh and fall out their chairs. And, but no, I haven't told all of them. No, certainly not. I'm in communication with some of them sometimes, and most of them have gone on to get married and get jobs, and some of them went on to college. That's amazing there. But we did have a group, about 50% went on to higher education. But we still keep in touch with some of them, yes.
All right. So now, how many other books are following this? This is your first.
This is the first, yes. And then we'll have 11 more.
You have 11 more.
They're in the production of number 2 now. It takes them about a year to produce a book, so.
All right.
So it's got a little ways to come.
It's been challenging for you.
Yes, very much. The book industry is a very difficult industry. I was told from the beginning that, and here we go with the God thing, I was told that becoming a book author, unless you have a whole lot of money, and I had zero, was like becoming a movie star. But the Lord led me to the right company, and at the right time, they called me and said they were interested in doing the series. So
now
the whole thing's been miraculous so far.
Very good. So now, if someone wants to get this book, how can they do so?
We're available at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Family Christian, and also on Amazon.com. And then probably in some, and also through Tate Publishing, who is our publisher. You can just order directly online that way.
All right. Has this been a fantastic journey for you?
Oh, yes, it's really fun. I've realized now I'm able to use all the skills from my lifetime in doing this. Just the children, the animals, my family work in the animal business. So as you see in the book, we have, the lady has a lot of pets. So I'm actually able to take my own pets who are in the story with me to the book signings, which is tons of fun for the kids. So it's me.
Oh, fantastic. This has been such a fantastic conversation with you, Laura. You have done wonders for not only children, but also in the Christian community as well. And this it's actually been my pleasure to discuss this with you. And please feel free to come back.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mama. I think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that bring the trauma.
Ma'am, you forgot your purse.
Honesty. Pass it on.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Public Report. We have with us now Miss Jan Clifford, and she is with Horsepower of Guilford County. Jan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
My pleasure. Please tell us how Horsepower began.
Horsepower began because I had horses and I had a love of horses. And I did a little research to see if we could use them to help the community members. And originally it started because I wanted to work with at-risk youth, but then I found out about therapeutic riding and how useful horses are to help heal people from the inside out.
What's your mission?
Our mission is to increase the quality of life for people with disabilities using horses.
Using horses. So, now, you work with children and adults with disabilities?
Yes,
or
ma'am. I refer them to all my children because everybody that comes out, they're part of our family. But we work from children as young as 3 and as old as 95.
Wow, that is a big difference.
That is a big gap, yes.
Yes, it is. So what type of disabilities do your participants have?
As long as we can safely provide our services, we will work with them, and safely means that we are able to provide them with an adequate horse, that we can keep them on the horse safely, and we can keep our volunteers safe when they're working with them. There are some disabilities that are contraindications to riding. If they have a brain injury or low, if their bones are weak or something like that, we have to be really careful. We do no harm by them putting them on top of the horse. So, but the majority of our riders have a physical and emotional disability, and probably the highest number of disability is autism, just because it's high right now.
Yes, it is. Yes. Now, do you have more boys than girls? Since you brought up the autism fact, since more boys are affected, or is it an equal number of students?
I think it's pretty equal.
Okay. All right. So now, why was horses identified as a therapeutic animal?
Because when a horse walks, their hips move the same way as when we walk.
Really?
So if you are sitting on a horse, your body's moving the same way as if you're walking yourself. So you're exercising your hips, your pelvis, your shoulders, your back. You're learning to build core muscles by the horse moving your body for you.
Okay.
And what child or what adult doesn't like to be on a horse and feel the freedom of the 4 legs and the great strength beneath them? So it's physically, it's building muscles, and emotionally, it's building self-esteem.
Okay, and so really it's like your own body moving.
Exactly.
On the horse.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, how long has horsepower been in effect?
This is our 20th year.
Awesome, 20 years. And now, where are you located?
We're currently in Colfax, North Carolina, which is right over by the airport.
Okay.
But we're building a new facility in High Point, which we're very excited about. It's 38 acres, and we are in the middle of a $1.5 million campaign.
Oh my.
We're about a third of the way there, and we are hoping in May to build our first building there, a barn that includes stalls that our riders can incorporate brushing and grooming and caring for the horses as well as riding.
Okay, so now are you facing any challenges with this fundraiser?
We are, but surprisingly, it's not necessarily raising the money. It's trying to decide what the perfect facility is. It's a lot harder than we expected, because for the last 20 years, we've been using other people's facilities, so we just had to make do with what we had.
Okay.
Now we're going, okay, we want the perfect design, and it's hard to do. That is a big challenge. So if anybody sees this and they have any great ideas on building wheelchair ramps or designing barns that are wheelchair accessible and handicap friendly, then please give me a call.
That's a challenge for the community.
It is, yes.
Very good, and I hope you get a lot of calls with that. Now, does horsepower operate year-round?
We do operate year-round. August is a little iffy, so we try not to have too many activities because of the heat. And then January, the weather's a little unpredictable. So those are really slow months.
Okay.
We don't have scheduled classes, but the horses need care year-round.
Right, right. Now, is everything outside in the elements?
Oh, no, ma'am. We have a covered arena,
Okay.
so we can operate if it's raining. If it's like 12 degrees, it's a little bit iffy on whether it's safe for the riders. So we've had to cancel because the people can't get to the barn because of the ice or whatever.
Okay.
But the new facility will have a covered and closed arena as well.
Okay. Now, you've brought some information regarding the facility and the background and the grounds itself here in the studio.
Yes.
You have some charts for that our audience will see of the facility and also of the children engaged in riding on the horses. That's awesome, and everybody will see that. Can you tell when the children are just, are they overwhelmed by this? Does this leave an indelible imprint on their lives?
There is nothing like it, and it's obvious. Everybody that comes out, it's obvious that they're enjoying themselves. And it's not just the rider, it's the parents, it's the siblings, it's the grandparents.
Okay.
So a lot of times when they come out, we have what we call a guest corral. It's more or less a holding area because the kids are so excited about getting on their horse that it's hard to contain them. So we have, it's not just riding either. A lot of people don't realize what goes into one of our classes. We have goals and objectives for each particular ride, as well as long-term goals. And it may be learning to walk, it may be completing a sentence, it may be just having the muscle tone to sit up and make eye contact. I mean, so it's obvious that they're having a good time. They don't always realize that they're in a treatment center type of environment because they're having such a good time, but they're always building something, building strength, building goals. They may need to use Velcro for their clothes or tie knots or, you know, so we do all different types of activities to help them have better quality of life.
Now, once a student or a person is identified for this program, what's the process?
The first step would be to contact our office and set an appointment, and then we sit down and we go over what our goals and objectives are, and we make sure that we can first provide the service safely. We are dealing with horses, and they have a mind of their own. Sometimes they just don't want to do something. So we try to be as safe as possible. We try to match up that rider with a horse that would match personalities as well as the best objectives, whether it's a lot of movement, a little movement.
Based off the person's issue.
Right.
Okay.
So if someone has a lot of muscle tone, they might want a horse that doesn't move too much. They need to gradually learn to relax. So there's different factors that go into picking the correct horse for the rider. And then there's always what types of things that they want to achieve. The parents may just want them to have a recreational ride so they can relax and they can have fun. So it's really a custom design plan.
Awesome. Very, very good. Now, for the parents, is there a cost?
There is. When we first started, we told the parents that there wasn't a fee and no one thought it was worthwhile. And we operated for a while as you can pay basis, but a lot of the people that fund our program want us to make sure that everyone's accountable for as much as we can for the services. So we start out for a $250 fee for a 6-week session, and then if they cannot make that $250, then they apply for a scholarship. So we, you know, if we have to turn someone down, it's because we don't have room for them. It's not typically because they can't afford to pay, because we have great community members that partner with us for scholarships.
Good, awesome. Now, do you have volunteers?
The volunteers are the lifeblood of our program, because we have an average of 100 riders a week, and each rider has 3 volunteers, so it's 300 volunteer hours a week that the community brings to us. Yeah, so it's if we didn't have those people, we wouldn't be able to operate.
True, true. Now, for your volunteers, is a special training required for them?
Yes, and we tell everyone when they want to volunteer, if you have a desire to help someone, then we have a place for you. But you do have to, if you want to work in the class, you have to have the ability to walk for about 45 minutes, and it's a real exercise to walk alongside of a horse and keep the rider safe, and you are doing a lot of hand coordination with the riders and things like that. So we go through a 2-hour training to make sure that they understand the safety, the procedures, and what it is that we're doing. And then if they feel comfortable, then they'll come back and they'll take a role in working with the students.
Now, Jan, since you're working with corporate partners, do you have any type of events during the year to help with your fundraising?
Yes, we do, and I'm glad you asked about that, because I happen to bring a couple of events we have coming up. We typically have 4 fundraisers a year. We don't want to be in business to have fundraisers. That's not our business. So when we have someone else that comes along to do a fundraiser for us, it helps us out tremendously. The first event we have coming up is the Winston-Salem Moose Riders. They have a motorcycle ride that they are going to do April 25th. And the pure pleasure of this thing is they do all the work for us. They plan the ride, they come up with the prizes, they do the food, they do the band, they do everything. And the only thing we do is show up, have a good time, and then we're the recipients of the funds, and that goes to our scholarship fund. So it's the Winston-Salem Moose Riders, and it's going to be at the Moose Lodge in Winston-Salem.
Now, does your students come with you?
Well, we will try to get a couple of students to come out and make a presentation or be, present to show, but a lot of our riders don't understand the concept of going to a fundraiser or something like that. If they come to Horsepower, they're going to expect to get on a horse too. So we might have someone come out, maybe an adult or someone who is cognitively able to explain what it is that they do.
Okay.
And then the other thing is the Civitans community. There is a Horsepower community Civitans that has been organized, and that is just an awesome match because the Civitans worked with the community to be an organization to serve others with disabilities. So they are doing a golf tournament on May 14th, and that will be another fundraiser for our scholarship fund. So it's going to be at Bryant Park, and it's just expect to be a lot of fun.
Is this open to the public?
It is. So we need corporate sponsors, we need players, we need prizes. And of course, someone doesn't want to play or anything like that, we will have lunch. They can always join us for lunch and be part of the festivities.
Very good. So now, Jen, if someone wants to get in contact with you to find out more about the program, to get their child or an adult started with the program, how can they do that?
They could call directly to our office, which is 336-931-1424. And our website is very easy to remember. It's horsepower.org, and it has all of our contact information on there.
Okay, and that information is on the screen for our viewers to see. Jen, I know 20 years, there's a lot has happened, and a lot of stories, a lot of students have come through, but can you think of a success story?
Oh man, get me started.
I know.
We have one young lady who wanted, her mom's goal was just to have her to be able to sit up. She was not able to sit up. Her disability had caused one of her legs to be amputated, and she had a curved spine, and she had, just a lot of challenges. And she was a real challenge for us because when she first started riding, you physically could not hold her up on the horse. And she started riding, and she was able to eventually build up the tone to sit up. And her mom was thrilled because a lot of us take this for granted. She was able to sit up in bed then.
Awesome.
And I just can't imagine your whole life having to lay down or be strapped in a wheelchair. And she went from always having to be in a prone position to being able to prop herself up and sit up on her own.
This is due to her experience on the horse.
Yes, and her mom actually took to the doctor and said there's something wrong with her leg, there's a bulge. And when she got the doctor's laughing. She said, no, there's nothing wrong. That's actually a muscle. And she's never been able to build a muscle up before.
Okay.
So just the balance on the horse is what was able to keep her to sit up.
All right, that is such a success story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Jan Clifford, the Executive Director of Horsepower. And we will see you next time on Public Report.
This has been Public Report. Public Report discusses the issues of interest and importance to our viewing area. Please remember that the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of TCT or the station.